So Matt's already given a good brief overview of the project. So what we're talking about is a dedicated energy from waste facility, a new boiler that is going to be co-located at an existing coal-fired power station. It's the Mount Piper Power Station, which is located near Lithgow, so a couple of hours west of Sydney. It's a very significant power station. It is one of the newer coal-fired power stations in the state. It's going to be there for a long time. And there are obviously some very significant benefits of being able to co-locate with that sort of infrastructure rather than go and build a greenfield facility, which we'll come through to and talk in more detail. For those of you who weren't already aware, so the SEERs have been issued for this project, so they're up on the New South Wales planning website. So that came out in April. Potentially looking at the first power outputs in 2019. Although, as everyone would understand, committing to an exact time frame for that, we're working through a detailed planning process. So I'll quickly go through, I think, one of the really important parts of this project. Certainly a very important part of the project is the people that have come together, or the groups that have come together for it. So I will spend a bit of time talking about who are the partners involved in this. So ReGroup, we are an Australian company. We specialise in resource recovery. So that's all we do. We're not involved in landfills. We're not involved in collection fleets. So we're active across all the different urban waste streams. So when you have a company called Re something, you realise how many different words you can start with Re. It's quite a fun game. So recycle is the yellow bin side. So Stuart presented yesterday about the upgrade of the Canberra, the Hume MRF, building a couple of other facilities. So Townsville MRFs coming together. In the ReGroup, the green bin side, we are currently, or we're almost about to start commissioning the Shell Harbour Fogo tunnel composting facility. But in the mixed waste side, one of the real gaps in the market that we all know about, and we've all known about for a very long time, is what can we do with the stuff that we can't make into compost and we can't recover as recyclable. You know, we've all understood for a very long time the importance of an energy offtake, and I think most people in this room would also understand some of the things that we heard this morning. You know, this is proven, this is safe. I think we have to be pretty smart about how we communicate that with the community, because I don't think that everyone outside of this room understands that this is a well-proven, well-trodden pathway, but that's something that we're taking seriously. This is a slide that I put up 2 years ago. We have very publicly been saying that we actually agree with the New South Wales energy from waste policy. I know there's some people who have some issues with it. You know, the fine detail, and we don't have all the fine detail. There could be some issues in there, but the big picture, you know, the idea of, you know, let's limit what we can put into the energy recovery system. It's something that we've always supported. I like this slide because it's the prettiest thing I've ever done, so I thought I'd use it again. But you know, that's our view of the world. When the energy from waste policy came out, we've gone, okay, well, what are the rules? What can we and can't we do? I guess our view of the world, the perfect situation is that red bin, if you can recover all the material resources from it, so an MBT style process. You know, the leading MBTs are getting 70% diversion without an energy offtake. So if you can do that, you can pull out all the recyclables that you can actually recycle. You can make compost from all the organics you can make, and then you've got a residual stream left over that you really can't recycle, you can't make it into compost. That's, you know, the perfect view of the world. I'll come back to it later, but one of the interesting things is that demand for fuel could really open up the opportunities to develop more mixed waste processing facilities at the front end. And another thing that we've said consistently, and this project is very much aligned with, is that, you know, what we didn't want to do was set out to just build a greenfield project just to generate new electrons for the grid. That never seemed like the smartest way to do it. So we've been very actively working with, well, how do we identify a partner that we can have a smarter offtake for that energy resource. So people who have an existing use is certainly an area that we've done a lot of work and been a lot of focus on, and led us to Energy Australia. What I think's cool about it is, I'm sure everyone knows Energy Australia. It's one of the 3 largest energy retailers and generators in Australia. They have some of the biggest coal-fired power stations. They're a very large company. The reason I put this up here, I think this is pretty cool. This isn't Catherine, the managing director at some obscure, you know, energy or sustainability conference. This isn't something that, you know, she just says on a platform. this is, front page of their website. This is, what they're all about. They recognise that they generate, they have a responsibility. They generate a lot of electricity, and determined that they will live up to the responsibility in the way that they change, how that comes along. It's something that I think, and particularly those public statements and leadership from the top, it's something that's really important for us in picking who do we want to work with. We want to work with people who are, leading in this space. I wouldn't usually run a video, but this short ad, again, I think that this isn't something that was developed specifically for this conference. This is what they put up to the public. This is how they talk about their energy side.
We humans are an ingenious bunch. History's shown we can do anything we put our minds to. But hands didn't come up with this. A foot didn't have this idea. All of this came out of someone's head. Set us a challenge, and however unlikely, we'll think of a way to solve it. And nowhere are those solutions needed more urgently than the world of energy. So at Energy Australia, we're going to light the way. Light the way to energy-efficient solutions by partnering with leading thinkers. We'll light the way by investing in renewable resources, and light the way by continuing to offset carbon emissions. Because when we put our heads together, who knows what could be next? Energy Australia, light the way.
I know it's an ad, but I think that's important, the way that they're looking at this world, partnering with other people who are innovative in what they can do and trying to solve these problems. We all understand the importance of the energy recovery sector. We all, we've been talking about this at waste conferences for years. It's really important that we can come together and work with other people that I guess have had a similar mindset and certainly complementary skills. So that's I guess the partnerships in there. So it's a joint venture with Re.Group and Energy Australia. Clearly, you'd understand whose special skills are in which area. They're leaders in generating and using that power. They have existing infrastructure. They require that energy. We're very good at resource recovery. We're very good at processing materials and making them to a specification. That's what we do with all our resource recovery facilities. And making fuel isn't all that difficult. ARENA has been a real pleasure for us to work with. Obviously it's nice when people give you money, but the process of working through with them, the team, Matt, Amy, have been really useful, really productive, and actually adding value to this process. It's been something that I've personally enjoyed, and I think we've enjoyed. It hasn't been a painful process. It hasn't been something that we've had to go and beg, and they've put us through a heap of hoops. It's been a very proactive working together, and we have been working on this for a long time. I've had a few people make the comment that it's just a study. We would not be talking publicly about this if we weren't pretty sure in our pre-feasibility work that this is a real project, and we're very, very confident that it's going to happen. That said, we take our the social licence to operate very, very seriously, and we are doing a real consultation process. So before we started talking with you about this and before this went out, we have been talking with the community. The local community up there, obviously it's a different local community to some of us are used to, but they live in that area. They're really excited to know that there's an opportunity for new jobs, for growth, for new investment in that area. And it's been again, not all easy. Obviously, there's plenty of hard questions, but it's good to be having those conversations, and there's certainly a very positive element to it, and something we're going to keep going. So, the partnership that's come together on this, I'm very confident in our ability to deliver this and deliver a really excellent outcome in terms of achieving the goals that we all understand, we all know. It's just a question of how do you get there, and innovative thinking to solve those problems. That's what we're all about. So, into the project itself, so that, when I say a lot of energy, 12,000 gigawatt hours per year, so it's about 12% of all of New South Wales power comes out of the existing Mount Piper power station. So it was built in 2 lines, which were built 92, 93. At the time, they were planning to put another boiler 3 and boiler 4 on. So they've decided that that's not going to happen, but obviously the site was prepared in terms of efficiencies. We have an existing power station that has all the ancillary connectivity and infrastructure required, but we've also got the space. So we've got room. It's a pretty obvious opportunity for us to go, well, what can we build next to this, and how can we do it? So what we're looking at, it is, and I'll come back to this in a little bit, but what we're looking at is providing steam into this power station. Obviously, we all know that you can put a turbine on the back of an energy from waste facility and generate electricity. Everyone understands that. But if we can avoid doing that, there are certain benefits to it from a technical standpoint. But working at this existing power station, obviously, I think everyone understands the benefits that brings. Side overview, I won't, it's hard to read at that, but again, there is plenty of information about this up in the public domain now, so if you wanted to have a look, the application for SEARS, the preliminary environmental assessment, is all available online, and this is one of the detailed site overviews that's up there. One of the confusion points, or one of the questions that we get quite a bit on this project is, I think there's been a misunderstanding that we're putting RDF into the existing power station, which isn't the case. And there's a few good reasons that isn't the case. It's not impossible. People have tried that, but you have you're introducing a pretty challenging fuel stream into something that's a really essential bit of infrastructure. People don't really like it when you are reducing the reliability or threatening the reliability of that sort of power station. So building a dedicated RDF, energy from waste facility, provides a hell of a lot of advantages compared to putting it straight into the coal-fired power station. Obviously, it costs a little bit more, but that's okay. One of the other things, obviously, is we can have a separate air control stream. So, yes, there is an existing stack there, and yes, you can go through there, but obviously, not having it, being able to have it as a separate standalone energy from waste facility means that we can treat it completely separately and absolutely working in line with the requirements as the policy sets out. It is a best practice approach. You don't have any option, and we're very happy with that. It aligns with how we want to do things anyway. Okay, it's kind of weird doing presentations at this end part of the conference. I feel like we should be having a conversation more than me just talking. I'm kind of sitting there wanting to actually talk with you, but anyway, let me keep going. It's kind of bizarre. I'm waiting for someone to yell something at me. I won't spend too long talking about the fuel preparation. The thing that I'd get across here is that this isn't rocket science. What's really interesting from a resource recovery perspective is does this open up a different opportunity to get into mixed waste processing? I think we all understand the challenges of building large-scale waste processing infrastructure. Other than the Woodlawn facility that's currently in decommissioning, there hasn't been a large-scale mixed waste processing facility built in New South Wales for quite a while. It's hard work. Does this, though, preparing fuel is a hell of a lot easier than making compost from mixed waste. A lot easier. And you look at the way that other facilities have evolved. You look at something like Global Renewables Eastern Creek, where you make a compost, you get up to 70% diversion rate, and you're left with a stream that you then go, right, that's a beautiful fuel and easy to make into a fuel. Does that change the paradigm around? And instead of doing the hard work and trying to chase the organics first, do you look at the fuel first and then bolt on the organics opportunity over time? That's something we'll need to work out, but key to all of this is creating that demand for the fuel, something that's and local demand being a very important part of it. In terms of the impacts for those from the resource recovery point of view, we're talking about diversion rates 80-90% from a mixed waste facility, which is pretty exciting stuff. There's things that I remember coming to this conference years ago, and one of the questions that always came up was, zero waste. Is it possible? What's going to happen? Where can we get to? And if you can get the red bin, you've already got your source separated systems in place. If you're getting to your red bin and you're getting a sort of 90% diversion rate, we're getting pretty close to having answered, a big part of that problem. And this is stuff that's happening now. This isn't something that's going to be, in 20 years' time we'll still be talking about that. This is stuff that's actually developing. We have a policy setting. We now actually have projects in the planning pathway. Things are coming together. One other thing. How am I going for time? Oh, really? I've got ages. Are people going to ask lots of questions, or should I just keep... Yeah, okay, this is lots of questions. Okay. I guess the final thing that I'd say is that there is a bit of a chicken and an egg situation. You know, there does need to be a confidence that the fuel will be available before you go and invest the sort of money you do in a facility that can use that fuel. At the same time, you know, it's kind of it would be perfect if all the fuel came online at exactly the same time as the demand came online, but it's not going to happen. You know, there's a requirement for an interim fuel preparation step or fuel use step, which is something that I know a lot of groups have been working on, and something that's, I think, is really important for our industry, is to be able to prove that fuel production capacity and show that we can actually make this fuel and give everyone confidence in being able to build this. The other message that I'd give, particularly to the councils in the room, is that the timelines available for this, you know, if your plan is to wait until 2019 and then think about whether this is something that you might be interested in or not, you know, the opportunity will have passed you by. You know, this, you know, we're talking 100,000 tonnes at this particular facility. Obviously, this won't be the only facility in New South Wales, but you know, there will be a finite demand for fuel, is my prediction, and the people who get into that earlier, you know, I think it would be a wise move. Certainly, what I would be doing if I was in that boat. I'll leave that up there. That's the slide that I put up 2 years ago about my predictions for the coming years. Hasn't quite all come to pass, but I wouldn't revise my thinking as to what does this mean, where are we headed. I think that, you know, the enhancement of these existing resource recovery facilities, it's a really obvious thing to do if you have that fuel demand. I think that it really does change the dynamics for what can you do in the mixed waste processing space. If we've got strong demand for that, it really a diversified offtake opportunity. So we're not only making compost, we're not only pulling out recyclables, but we're spreading out that risk, and we've got more opportunities as to what we're going to be recovering as resources. You know, it really opens up the opportunity to start building more of these processing facilities, and particularly at a lower scale. I think also, you know, I think we're already seeing a lot in the C&I space, the opportunity there, and I think that integrated facilities that maximise both the material and the energy recovery value, you know, I think that's the outcome that the New South Wales policy is designed to achieve, and certainly something that is guiding us, and I think that, you know, we're well on the way to achieving that.